Today, I want to talk to you about what I think is the best IJN torpedo boat in the game right now, the Tier 8 premium Japanese destroyer Hayate. It's come back to the game. Previously, it was a reward for a campaign, and if you missed it, well, then you had no hope of getting it until one of the more recent updates where the Hayate was added back to the game as a GXP ship. In fact, I think it was this update. You can buy it in the store now for 1.4 million global XP, same price as the Tier 8 Elbing, although if you don't have the Elbing, I think I would recommend you get that before you get the Hayate, just because the Elbing is such a unique experience that you really can't get with any other ship in the game. With a Hayate, if you're going to build it for torpedoes, you can sort of get mostly the same experience with other Japanese torpedo boats like the Yugamo, or maybe the Shimakaze. However, the reason I say the Hayate is the best IJN torpedo boat in the game is not only because it has great Japanese torpedoes with all the typical characteristics. They hit like for 20k, they go 11 kilometers, they have a 66 or 67 knot speed. They're the conventional IJN torpedoes, but the thing that makes the Hayate so good is the guns. It's got 6 of them, and if you build for the guns, you can get them to reload in 3.5 seconds. I've got Azurlane Yukikaze as my commander. Plus, if you use the mortar skill, then your HE maximum damage is about 2400. And also the fire chance is 9%. These are great numbers for destroyer guns, and they are very effective indeed. Now, we screw up a little bit here. We're entering the alpha cap, but we're not entering it the way I would have wanted to, which, instead of going bow in, is to go stern in. In situations like this, where we have no support except in the form of a friendly Kitakaze, and we know there's a battleship out there, and we suspect there might be destroyers, we don't want to push bow in toward a capture circle. We want to push stern in, just in case we get spotted. That's going to give us the easiest chance to disengage, but we fail that, and as a consequence, we lose a lot of our HP. So we don't want to push any further into this cap. Plus, more torpedoes are incoming. Smoke screens are torpedo magnets, after all. But those were not the Sumner's torpedoes, those were the Shima's. The Shima is going to demonstrate to us exactly why you don't want to push bow into a cap circle in your destroyer right at the start of the game. He's spotted by both me and the Kitakaze, we're both focusing him down, and it doesn't take us very long to dispatch him. He goes down, and we get the first blood medal. One of our torpedoes caught the Prinz Ruprecht on the bow and started a flood, so since we're still concealed behind our smoke screen, we're going to open up on him and hopefully light a perma fire there. We're going to get far away from this capture circle for the moment. Note that we are here basically alone, except for the Kitakaze, who is tucked safely inside of his own smoke screen, farming the Prinz Ruprecht. But the battleship that spawned with us has completely abandoned this side and has instead gone toward the center, where there is nothing spotted and nothing to shoot, so that makes perfect sense. In any case, we know the Sumner is still out there, and we cannot push in. We can't afford to get spotted by the Sumner and then get focused by both him and the Prinz Ruprecht's secondaries, so we need to be patient. It is never, ever, ever a good play to lose your destroyer in the first 5 minutes in pursuit of a capture circle. Yes, the enemy has taken Alpha. Nobody else on our team has flipped any other cap, so we've only got the one we spawned with, and the enemy has 2. They're ahead of us on points, and they can continue to build that points lead for as long as they hold the cap. So it is important that we start contesting it soon. But even though the enemy has flipped it, all is not lost. There is still 11 minutes left to go in this game. And our goal, always in a destroyer, needs to be to stay alive for the duration of the game. You are absolutely useless to your team if you flip a capture circle 5 minutes into the game and then perish right after doing so. You want to live to fight another day, essentially. And now that the Prinz Ruprecht has taken himself behind the island, we're a little bit more comfortable with pushing in. We spot the Sumner, who is pushing into us, and this is not a great thing. He's only got his front 2 guns on target. Meanwhile, we can get all of ours. We're turning away so that we can start kiting. Anytime you're kiting versus pushing in, kiting always gets the advantage, but our guns hit so hard that we're able to take out the Sumner. We're still spotted by the Ruprecht, who is peeking around from behind that island, so we don't want to take any further damage from him or his secondaries. We wait for a moment to go dark, and now we'll be able to turn back in and enter the capture circle. The Ruprecht is the only one left, be great if some of our battleships would maybe, I don't know, be in a position to shoot at him, but of course they're not. They're all concentrated in the grid square in the center, right in our middle cap, so really they're not providing us a whole lot of value, except for the one who is sort of giving up his ship in an attempt to take Charlie. I doubt that's going to work out very well for him, but now that both the Sumner and Shimakaze have been dispatched, we can get into this capture circle without really having to worry too much. Our only concern is the Wooster out there. He's 16 kilometers away, so obviously we're well outside of his radar range, but we don't know what he's going to do. He may start pushing toward Alpha, and if he does, he's going to be able to spot us and take us out. All we need to do is get radared and then get shot like twice by the guy, and we're sunk. We're back to port, so we want to avoid doing that. We're going to wait until about the last minute before we actually get inside of the Alpha cap itself. We've got torpedoes going in that gap there in case the Ruprecht pushes forward, but we're also concerned about him reversing. Our concealment is not the best on this build because we're making use of the mortar skill on Azurlane Yukikaze. So we've got a 6-kilometer detectability by sea, which is not great, although it's obviously not unplayable. You can play very, very well with 6 km concealment. You just have to be exceptionally careful about your positioning in a destroyer. And the mortar skill, of course, makes the guns more effective. That's why I'm running it. So we're far enough away from the Ruprecht that he can't spot us. We should be able to flip this capture circle. We're being joined by both the Kitakaze and another destroyer. We've actually got all 3 of us in this cap, which is maybe not the best use of our destroyer fleet here. The 4th and final destroyer is over there north of Charlie. He's not able to get into it right now. Maybe it'd be better if one of these guys were over there assisting him, but it's all good. We're going to be able to flip this capture circle. Kitakaze has torpedoes on the Prinz Ruprecht. They may be able to hit and finally take that guy out. But we take the capture circle, and now we're going to push forward a little bit and decide what we want to do. We've got a huge collection of battleships out there, most of whom are on pristine health. They've just been sitting in the center of the map, bow tanking, while our teammates have been doing the same, so it's been a bit of a stalemate, not too much going on. Wooster out there, we need to be very careful. But we need this Prinz Ruprecht to be taken care of. We would like to either go back toward the center, back toward our Bravo cap so we can counter these battleships while pushing in, or alternatively we might want to go for the Delta cap where the enemy spawned and maybe flip that. Kitakaze is providing us vision, so we decide we're going to smoke up because we're within firing range of this Yamato, and there's another Yamato heading toward the center that we could potentially shoot at as well. But we've forgotten one thing as we've smoked up, which is to be mindful of the location of the Wooster. He was spotted quite far away indeed, but our smoke screen signals the presence of a destroyer over here, and if the Wooster is paying attention to the map, then he probably knows there are no large capital ships to counter him if he wants to push in this direction and try to radar us and our Kitakaze friend. So keep that Wooster in the back of your mind, but our smoke screen, other than the fact that Wooster is lurking around, is pretty good deployment. We're able to shoot at this Yamato going through the center here, and we've got a fire burning on him as well as the first one, which I think he's about to DCP. Kitakaze smokes up though, and thus we are cut off from vision for the first Yamato, and we have no idea if the Wooster is going to be approaching us. This is not great. It's at this point that I decide, okay, it's time to get out of the smoke screen. We need to get vision on both this Yamato and the Wooster. Yamato is going behind the island, so we can't shoot at him anymore. And Wooster, well, unfortunately, Wooster's right there. He pops the radar, and I think it is only a stroke of luck that the Kitakaze happens to be right over there. Wooster is dead focused on that guy. He has no interest in shooting me right in front of him, so this is going to give me enough time to line up a torpedo salvo, which I don't need. The Kitakaze is able to take out the Wooster with his torpedoes. GG to him. If you're gonna trade your destroyer with something, you might as well trade it with a radar cruiser. Not terribly bad. And, in fact, the Kitakaze is the only destroyer on our team to go down. We've still got 3 left floating, and there are only 2 enemy battleships left alive. This, I think, more than anything, illustrates the importance of keeping your destroyers alive till the late game, because these Yamatos have 0 chance of winning with the 3 of us still floating. Absolutely 0, unless they're the best super unicums in the entire game, and they can thoroughly outplay all three of us, which seems unlikely. So the goal now is basically just to remain alive, secure the win conditions, and maybe farm a little bit of extra damage for style points. Note, by the way, that we have 91,000 damage done. Yamato over here 8 kilometers away. We're going to sort of park behind this island, try to be concealed, and shoot at this guy. Farm some of these defender ribbons. They're good for our credit earnings and XP, of course. And yeah, so we start that engagement at 91,000. I want you to take a look at the damage done when we're finished with this engagement, because Yamato is reversing, but it's quickly going to become evident to him that he can't really just sit here and allow us to spam him. I know, a crazy thing, but it turns out that when you're under the focus of HE spam, you can't just sit there in your battleship and take it. You actually have to move, which the Yamato is doing now. He's trying to get further away so we cannot continue to spam him, but we've got a fire burning on him, and fires are very dangerous to battleships, as I'm sure you know if you've ever played a battleship. A full fire can burn like 20,000 of your HP in some of these higher tier battleships. And what do you know, we start the engagement at 91,000 damage as the Yamato goes around the corner, and DCPs, we've got 122. That was all from the guns, and all from the fires they start. Note that we've only hit one torpedo in this game. Guns I like on a destroyer much better than torpedoes, because torpedoes are subject to a lot more RNG than guns are. In other words, they spread out, RNG affects their spread, and oftentimes it'll make battleship-sized gaps between torpedoes, especially IJN torpedoes, that battleships can dodge very, very easily, especially because these torpedoes are spotted from so far away. As long as you know where the IJN torpedoes are coming from, if you're paying attention to the map, you have a good idea of where the destroyers are, and you know torpedoes are coming from a certain direction, then as long as you turn against that direction to dodge the torpedoes, you'll spot the IJN torps from quite far away, and they are amongst the easiest torpedoes to dodge in the game. Plus, you know, torpedoes have to travel in a straight line for a certain amount of distance. There's a good chance the enemy can alter their speed, alter their course, and very easily dodge the torpedoes. Guns, on the other hand, take much less time for the shells to reach the target, and of course fire damage, stacked over time, is very, very good against battleships. The fire chance on the Hayate and the HE are both so good that we're actually going to end up getting the Witherer medal in this game, which is not something that you often get on destroyers, except for maybe things like, say, the Russians, Khabarovsk, Delny, Tashkent, perhaps the Akizuki or the Kitakazi. Well, Hayate is no slouch as a gunboat. It has great fire chance and great HE. And that, more than anything, is what has allowed us to win this game. We're going to finish this game, of course, with a victory. The only question is, can we farm a little bit more damage off that Yamato before he goes down? And the answer to that is no. Unfortunately, we really can't. So this is how we're going to end the game, and we're going to end up with over 3,000 base XP, due in large part to our taking so many hit points from both the Shimakaze and the Sumner early on in the game, plus flipping a capture circle and getting all these wonderful defend ribbons. I think those are very valuable, plus we got the high caliber medal and of course Witherer. So quite a solid game in the Hayate, and because the Hayate has the best of both worlds in a sense, it's got those great hard-hitting IJN torpedoes, and it's also got excellent guns for a destroyer. It just, in my opinion, is actually the best IJN torpedo boat, mostly because of the efficacy of its guns. So I highly recommend it. It's very, very good, and you can get it essentially for free by using Global XP. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.